Okay. Just for that spreadsheet, the Excel sheet?
Good evening, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, board members, and interim superintendent, and everyone that's here this evening. I am Ms. McLeod, EC Director, and tonight just want to, this evening, just look at some of the brief updates of our 23-24 EC contracts. We still have the same contracts that we had before. I've submitted to you, you'll see the green, the color in green means that there was an increase. If you see the shaded color, like gold, yellow, that means a decrease. And what I do want to definitely highlight on here, if you look at elevation, which is up there on the screen, I think it's 1, 2, 3, the third one coming down. And our goal has always been to decrease the number of contracts that we have here in the district. And we have definitely been working towards decreasing those contracts. So if you look at like elevation, their services, we have discontinued that contract. And that was a $262,000 contract. And if you could move up to where it says Envision Services, which is in green. Just to take note for Envision Services, for that contract, and the reason there for the increase in that, that contract previously had no maximum amount, and all we did, we had to go in and add the maximum amount for that contract for this year, which was $140,000. As well as if you look down to the one underneath that, maximum, that contract for the 23-24 school year, again, it was no maximum amount, we had to add one there. And then for Reliant, that particular contract there, the previous contract was for 3 months, but we needed for the entire year, 23-24 school year. So that was a difference there. And then the last one at the bottom, which is Stepping Stones, which is in green. Again, their previous contract was only for 3 months, but we need them for the whole year. And I definitely want to say we are moving in the right direction as far as decreasing our contract.
Can you define maximum, I mean, I understand maximum amount, is the maximum amount of what?
They can't go over.
They can't go over.
They can't go over. They made, let's just say their contract, they made only $60,000, and their maximum amount is 140. Yes.
And part of that so that the finance officer can pre-audit it, because she sets aside the money to make sure that there's money available during the year to cover it. It doesn't mean that if they get to the maximum, that it wouldn't come back to you for an addendum to add money to it, but it sets the cap at the beginning to make sure that there's money available to pay during the course of the year.
We only pay until services are rendered. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Madam Chair. So was the elevation replaced with stepping stones? Is that on the first page, under some? Got to see it's the same type of services.
No, they didn't replace it, it was just two different companies. But Elevation, we no longer needed their services.
The reason why we don't need their services is because what's the reason why? Elevation.
Well, and Marianne, you can speak on
They
Elevation.
couldn't provide the people we needed for their services. We've been in communication with them. They stopped, I think it was September 30th, providing us with psychology. And after that point, we asked them for replacements, and they couldn't provide the staff. And other companies have been stepping up to give us interviews for staff to replace them.
Was it like increase or the decrease, I mean?
Yeah,
is it
so.
people that they're serving?
Yes, things are changing, and I would say for the better, as far as with, again, decreasing our contracts. So if you look at, speech in progress, which is in the yellow, the gold color, and it says, decrease due to loss of school and received additional, also additional 3 workdays. So what we've done, we actually have applicants now, which before we didn't have applicants. So we're getting in a lot of applicants for our speech assistants. And so we met with the contractors, had a meeting with them. We had to let them know we are decreasing your people. So they weren't happy, but we're not gonna keep paying them when we can get our own. And so that's our goal. That was our goal. And so that's what we've done. And so we're gonna celebrate those victories with that we have had those applicants come in. And the latest applicant actually has been a school psychologist. And so interview her tomorrow, actually. And so that's great. That's great. So we're gonna, that's the goal, is to keep working to decrease the contractors.
So the main thing, all your services are covered, or will be covered,
Yes,
that's the
Yes.
main thing, so
yes,
that's good.
yes.
So part of decreasing, does that mean that we also are gonna be able to decrease the amount going out? Money's paid, are we actually decreasing the money too, because we're decreasing the contracts or?
Right, so, when we have, just to kind of give you what that looks like, I'm just gonna use like speech, for an example. For a contract worker to pay what we pay through contracts to a speech company, their pay is ranged from $35 to up to $53, $55 an hour, okay? If we had our own, we will pay them pretty much, because we want to be fair game to them, at least $25 an hour versus 35 to 55 with contract. That's kind of to give you an idea of what the price difference is huge.
We're saving a lot, long term.
And then let me say this, even though the contract may say that they're
I think it's 53 for the assistant an hour. That's what we pay the company. That doesn't say that's what the company is paying them. So the benefit that we've been looking at is, what if we pay the assistant, the speech, pathologist assistant, if we pay them about $25 an hour to $30 an hour, and then plus they're getting benefits, medical, and all of that, we'll come out cheaper having those persons as employees versus paying a company, the money for them. So that's what we're kind of looking at. So over time, we do want these contracts. But what we have to be more marketable, right? So we can get that skill set that we need.
Have any more questions for Ms. McCollum? Thank you, Ms. McCollum. On the agenda is dual employment. Ms. Richardson?
She's back.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, everyone in your respective places. I have come to discuss dual employment. And so, when we talk about the positions, and I know we're here mostly about the teacher assistants, but the dual employees are basically for all non-certified employees. It does not include office personnel. Okay, so, and I want to start back in 2008. In 2008, the state had decided that they wanted to reduce the funding for teacher assistants. So what that meant to all the LEA school systems was that they either had to lay off their teacher assistants and keep some of them, or find a way to keep them all. So what Hope County Schools done, we made our teacher assistants 75%, allowed them to drive a bus, which made up, keeping them 75%, first of all, will keep their benefits full-time. But then we're talking about 25% of income that they will have lost. So that's where the bus came in. At that time, it became mandatory for a teacher assistant or custodian, whoever, to drive a bus as a dual employee. But they gave them the opportunity to choose to do that. We had about 5 people who were grandfathered in because of medical issues. And then we had about 6 people who decided they were not going to drive a bus at all. So we had to rift them. And what that meant was basically they were laid off, but we kept their insurance for 1 year. So they had time to get themselves together. Well, 2014, 2015, they came back and cut teacher assistant funding again. So basically when they did the class size mandate, they decided that if we made the classes smaller, we don't need teacher assistants. But the schools and the teachers got up and decided to rally against this because they felt like teacher assistants were needed in the classroom, and they are, because they are an integral part of that classroom. They help that teacher, they help sometimes as a teacher assistant that gets that child to get to where it needs to be. It also teaches them that, well, this is what I want to do, I want to be a teacher, I want to sit here and help these children. But because the funding was going away, we had to make it mandatory at that time that teacher assistants drive a bus. So we had the 75% teacher assistants, and we had 100%. And even though that means that lets the principal know that if a bus driver doesn't show up or a bus doesn't show up, I have a surplus of people who can get these children home. And I won't say it's not about the adult, because we have to do what we have to do, but we have to get those children home. So as the years go on, we have more outside bus drivers leaving, and we're relying more on our in-house teacher assistants and custodians. So we have been trying to get a plan to make sure they're all at least eligible to drive a bus by taking the bus class and doing all the things that they need to do to have them prepared. Now, if we keep the pool that we have, we just keep the other ones as, like I said, surplus, so whenever they can't drive, because things happen. So we keep them at surplus, but sometimes it comes upon that we say, well, you have to drive a bus. And yes, the dual employee position sheet says that if you're asked to drive a bus, 3 times you deny, it could jeopardize your job. But sitting in a seat in finance, I'm not seeing anybody get fired because of the fact that they didn't drive a bus. And I know some of them have been asked to drive several times, and they all said no. I'm not seeing that. But it is written that if they refuse 3 times, they could possibly lose their job. And you can't say to yourself, I'm not gonna drive a bus, but I'm gonna stay a teacher assistant, because both those positions intertwine with each other. So therefore, if you give up one, you're basically saying you're giving up both. And that's the way it is written. Do you have anything else?
Just, I think when the class size mandates came out from the state in 2015, what that basically said is instead of a kindergarten classroom having 25 kids, the state was going to cap that at 19, I think at the time. And that has gotten lower and lower, so you have reduced it. What we deal with in Hood County, being a smaller county, is being so close to Fort Bragg, when our bus drivers or people who work in the office are classified individuals, get their CDLs. We talked about this with teachers in the training, like sometimes they move on to something else, right? And we train them up and they go somewhere. That's the exact same thing that happens with our buses, right? So, we do a good job promoting, paying our bus drivers at a high rate to be very competitive. But, a lot of our individuals who have a CDL often jump to Fort Bragg because they can make a lot more there. And then to replenish that pool of drivers takes a while, because you can't just go send someone to get a CDL this week and they come back next week and need to drive a bus, right? So it's a timely process. So we're always fighting against the clock for replenishing that pool of drivers. The other part is, we had these benchmarks 2008, 2009, 2015, but the COVID year took out a lot of our drivers who just were outside individuals, retirees who wanted to, or who had always driven for Hood County Schools. So, I think Walina touched on it, 14, 15 was really when we had the dual employment thing, we kind of said, hey, we have to do this from now on to survive. But we never really enforced that policy until COVID or just after, because we never were at such a shortfall of bus drivers. And so, and to the point of, you drive 3 times or you could lose your job. I don't know any principal that has a good teacher's assistant, office worker, custodian that's gonna threaten their job over not driving, because I think good leaders understand that we're in people business, right? People have things that come up in their life. People have kids that they wanna go see at a program, they wanna, whatever. So I don't know that that's happening a whole lot. That's more of a question of leadership and policy in my book. But I think that the policy, you have to take into consideration that about 92 to 93% of all the buses that run every day, the people driving those buses fall under this policy. So if this policy was to go away and we basically said, hey, it's your choice to drive a bus or not, I'm not saying we wouldn't have bus routes covered. I just don't know if it gives the principals and the people in the buildings who have to make quick decisions to fill bus routes the ability to do so. And we very well may, as we get the next group of people through bus classes, maybe we do have a surplus of bus drivers. I know y'all want to give them a raise in the budget. Maybe that helps too. Those are all good things, right? They should get that. But I do think there has to be some sort of guiding policy, because otherwise everybody's going to be making up their own rules of who has to drive, who doesn't. And then you get into this favoritism thing as well. This person you favor, so you never make them drive, and I always have to drive kind of thing. So there does need to be some consistency in the policy to make sure everybody's being treated fairly.
Any questions?
So, Madam Chair, so you're not asking to hear this policy, right?
Out of you.
You're not asking to hear this policy.
No, sir.
No, I think we were just asked to kind of clarify the policy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, we're not asking you for the policy for sure.
I wanted clarity on the policy. I wanted clarity.
Oh, no, I was just what it said,
Oh, no.
but it sounded to me like
Well,
we should consider getting.
No,
rid of
no.
the
in
policy.
full transparency, we have had this discussion about the policy over the years, right? Like, should we do this? You know, you're asking some people, we have a lot of really hardworking people in Cook County, if you get on a bus at 6 in the morning, they work all day, they're on a bus till 5:30 at night, right? So like, there are considerations, I think, that as a building principal I had from some of the people who work for me, I'd say, I worry because she's working 12 hours a day, right? Like, and some people, I think, like that grind, they like to be able to make additional income when they can, they like that choice. But I think others don't love that part of the job as much, right? And so, you know, there are people that come to get hired in Hood County that just want to work with kids in the classroom. They have no interest in driving the bus. And we say, well, you have to get this bus license, you know. But I think that is a necessity at this point for our district in our current situation, right? If we had a pool of 200 drivers that we could say, you, come on, we want a bus, that's great. But we don't have that right now. And because we're a smaller district, we're not prioritized as some of the bigger districts are when they're running 50 people through bus class and we're running 6, you know. So there's a lot of considerations in it, but I do think the policy overall has helped us logistically stay operational over the course of the last 3 or 4 years. Whereas if we did not have a policy like that, I'm not sure that we would. I mean, everyone is well aware of the struggles we have with buses, right? I mean, like, that's not a secret, but we're doing what we can with the people that we have that we drive. If we cut that pool in half.
And have the bus drivers, training
They just have one and they have it every month in summer, right?
every month
No, we just had one in June,
in June?
and
Okay.
so the next one probably won't be until September.
September.
Part of that is because, number one, in the summertime, teacher assistants are 10-month employees, so they're not employed in the summer. And they often have other jobs that they have responsibilities with. So that takes precedence for them. And then, number two, the summertime is also used by the, Mr. Greg Jackson, works with DOT, who does our bus driver training courses. He's also using that time to provide behind the wheel driving portion of the class for those individuals who need it as well. So that's why it's not pulling those teacher assistants or dual employees out of the building during the school hours.
Okay.
How many people do we usually get in this class?
What, in the summer or throughout the year?
In the summer.
Well, I think in the summer, the one that we just had this month in June was 4 county employees.
You said 4?
4, yes, sir. And the rest of the class was outside people who may be coming to get CDLs for the purpose of going to drive dump trucks or buses somewhere else or whatever it may be.
Any other questions?
Thank you. Next on the agenda is camera quotes.
Is a particular one?
You probably put ADI, it doesn't matter, you know. Good evening, Madam Chair and board members.
Okay.
In front of you, on assembly, there are 3 different quotes. Yes, there are 4 attachments, but 2 of those attachments are from ADI. And I'll talk about those 2 attachments in a minute. So the first company that I'm going to review is Similar. And basically what this is the touring camera quotes that we got 3 separate quotes from 3 different vendors, just so that we can be comparable here. So Similar's quote came in for, and these are all somewhere approximately around 390 pieces of equipment. And in that count, it also includes the licensing fees or licenses for the actual camera. So Similar is roughly approximately $143,000. That company is located in Charleston, South Carolina. The second company is called Southwest Automated Security Incorporated, or SAS or SAS. And again, they are roughly approximately $140,000 for their quote, and they are located in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is about 2.5 hours from Rayford to their office. And then we have ADI. And ADI provided us with two separate quotes. One quote was just strictly for the McDonald's side and the Gibson side, and then the other quote that was provided was for over around the field house and the football field. Also the concession stand, the announcer's box, etc. So their two quotes came in at approximately $116,000 and $14,000. So when we add those two quotes together, they came up with $130,000 approximately. Now, the thing with ADI, what made them much cheaper by about $10,000 compared to the other two companies, is that they were running a promotion on their touring cameras during the month of June. We spoke with the vendor, Jeff, who was here with us last month. He ended up speaking, but he was the vendor, the touring representative. But he was here with us, was able to speak with him and with ADI within the last couple of weeks in between the last board session and now. And ADI will be running the same promotion for their cameras during the month of July. So which is going to help us out. That's going to stay in our favor with that $10,000 business. But they are located in Greensboro and are roughly the closest one that's closest to us as far as proximity is concerned. They also carry more of the merchandise or touring cameras. And so they are roughly 2 hours away from Rayford. And therefore, due to their proximity and location, as well as their ability to carry more devices on hand, ADI is the recommended company, not to mention they're roughly $10,000 cheaper. So that's always a benefit there, but that is the company that we would recommend to go with for purchasing the cameras. And we are also currently in communications with a company for installation at this time.
So they're gonna cover more of the campus, right? You said they're gonna do like the concession stand.
Right, yes, ma'am.
Yeah. I think this.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
the promotional is for July the 9th?
Well, on that particular quote, it says it expires at the end of the month.
Okay, July.
Of June on this quote, but we were able to speak with the company and they are running the same promotion in July that's currently taking place this month, so the pricing will do exactly the same.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there gonna be a contract in this for at least the services part, or how are you planning to handle that?
The installation or the
Well, just
merchandise?
Just the contract in general. I see the quote.
Right, yes, so generally, yes, sir, we'll reach back out to that company and inquire for one to get that in order to have a contract in place.
Okay, and we got forms that we can possibly use.
Okay.
Okay, any more questions? Thank you, Dr. Hunt.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is substitute teacher of the year, that'd be Madam Vice Chair.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman Sutherland,
Good afternoon.
and the rest of the school board. I know I should be, kind of collaborating. I think it may be Wanda McNeil that might be over the, substitute teachers. I know every year we do, teacher of the year, teacher of the year, we do, basically everybody. So I just thought it would be a great thing if we would actually, include the substitute teachers. So what I'm presenting to the board, my coworkers, my friends, and everyone else, is that we just take a fine look at this and consider, because I know that there are a lot of substitute teachers that are actually doing the job of a teacher. And they work all year, some of them actually work all year. You would not know that they wasn't a teacher if you weren't in that classroom. So I kind of pondered, and I'm gonna ask this to Wanda if she would, take this upon herself. It would be a great thing. And I kind of put the purpose of the award so that they could actually be recognized at convocation. And I think if we do that, we're gonna give those substitute teachers a feel that they are worthy. So the purpose of the award is, we just have to have like a criteria for them. And I thought one of the, if you would go down to, I don't know for sure if y'all have it on y'all papers, but work at least 100 days in the school year. And then they could be nominated actually by principals, assistant principals, school secretaries, parents, and teachers. I actually do myself have a person in mind to be that person that she worked all school year. She was there early. She didn't leave. She left after everybody else left. So I just have in here, I have a proposal for everyone to look at. And we actually have the selection process, the awards recognition, and included in all of that would be the nomination package. Things that should be in there, a nomination checklist, and how many days the substitute served County students. And it's just gonna take a moment for whoever do it, it's gonna take them a very brief moment. Because I'm just a firm believer that everybody is somebody. And I'm a firm believer that they are giving account for Hope County and helping our kids grow. And I would like to see if this will take place soon, immediately, if all possible. And I'm gonna give one to everybody. Are there any questions? I mean, I know I'm gonna real quick, but I got excited when I started putting it together. And I think this would be a great thing for Hope County.
I will say this, Madam Vice Chair, so I will give Ms. McNeil and Ms. Bounds, and then we'll go back and look at this process, and then invite, once they come in and look at it, as we do our teachers, the teacher assistants, and then we'll come back to you, and I'm hoping that we can put this in place for convocation.
Thank you.
Let me ask you something.
Well,
This is an information item. Is it gonna go on an action item?
I don't know if this necessarily need to be voted on.
We're not voting on
And then
anything tonight.
No, I
Next
didn't,
time.
yeah, not tonight, but I was just saying, for the,
Yeah, for the next time.
I mean, because if it wasn't on the information item, then I wouldn't ask about the action item, because you couldn't just took it to you and just said, this is what we want. But since you have it on an information item, I was just wondering, is it gonna be on the action item for the next meeting?
Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody else have any questions? I'm really big on this. This is my baby. And this is an update. That's the application, nomination, everything. That's it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair.
This-
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, can I? this?
Okay.
Okay,
You
that's
can,
okay.
I give you this, you give me, what's the attack?
This one, like, you said, oh, like the 100 days, okay.
Yeah.
You don't mind?
All right, again, thank you, Madam Vice Chair. At this time, next on the agenda is, Parents Committee, and that's gonna be by Ruben Castellano.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
Vice Chair, Interim Superintendent, and everybody here present. I'm delighted to be able to provide you some information and at the same time a proposition to consider so we can move beyond where we're at right now and establish our first subcommittee, the Parents Committee. As you know, parents here are in Hope County, the core of the Hope County schools. I say this because without parents in Hope County, we don't have children. And if we don't have children in Hope County, children will not be able to go to the school, and it goes on and it goes on. And so one of the things that I would just like to put out is that by being able to implement this parent committee, it's going to send out a statement that we are actually including our parents. We just don't say the parents are part of us, but we are actually including in the process of getting things done for our students. Obviously, some of the things that I would like to put out is that the parent committee will reflect the families in the community. And also, one of the requirements will be that the parents have to be able to have children in the Hope County school in one form or the other. This committee will not be be able to vote on any issue. However, it will provide critical input to the Hope County Board of Education to better support our community. And the role of the parent committee will be structured through which parents and or guardians at Hope County School work together for the best possible education for their children. Our term here is basically a sound basic education, being inclusive. And the parent committee should, through the chair and or vice chair of the parent committee, work with the members of the Hope County School team to build an effective partnership of home and school. And also advise the Board of Education parents' view on policy issues and incidents that may require a review of school policy, such as bullying, safety, homework, enrollment, and behavior problems, etc. And also suggest and help to organize events for speakers to address the parents on issues with relevant to the school, and support, encourage, and facilitate meaningful parental participation in the education of our children. And I also advise the whole county school when it comes to building projects. That's one of the things that as a parent before, we didn't have input on the high school project. And I think that if we include them, it just makes our ideas way better. Review new or current curriculums in consideration. Review books in the Polk County school system. Review policy implementation of changes. And the parent committee will not be a forum for complaint against either an individual teacher, parent, or any other employee. Parent committee composition will be the chair, vice chair of the parent committee. And an effort will be made to ensure parent representation exists from every school within the whole county school. And I would recommend that I will be the first chair for this parent committee. The meetings will be 3 times in the school year on a Thursday. Just want to put a disclaimer. This is subject to modification as we did with the work session meeting. As we went along, we improved it and it just became better. So this is just a proposition. 6 p.m. And obviously, the meeting will consist of reminding the school system team of when the meeting will be, to include the agenda, as this will be also an official meeting. Obviously, it will be required for all and any parent willing to participate in this parent committee to attend. And if the individual, the parent does not attend, obviously, we will have to be notified to make sure whether they are going to be present or not. And the method of communication will be basically the email system to keep everything tracking. If there is communication from any parent for the parent committee, it will be to one of the parent board members of the parent committee, and also it will be forwarded to the chair and or vice chair of the parent committee for further review, at which time the chair and or the vice chair of the parent committee will forward that email message accordingly. In the record keeping, the whole county school provides administrative support to the parent committee. Minutes of parent committee meetings shall be posted in the whole county school official website, just like any other meeting that we have. Questions?
I have where, do you have a location where the meetings would take place, or you just have that?
I would think that once, and in a previous conversation with Mr. Malone, that we would have to vote on this. Once we vote on this, then we can either modify the coordinator, can either be here or at the other location. As the date right now will be Thursday, so I looked at that because it doesn't interfere with none of the meetings that we're having. So I estimate that it will be probably about 3. We're gonna have to probably readjust. 3, probably no less than 2 meetings per school year. Because I don't foresee being able to have this on a monthly, because as a parent, I just don't see having to provide information to the board as to what's going on.
First, I have a question. I have a few questions, but I have a question for the chair. What is the advisory board to the superintendent? What is that?
I can answer that.
The Family Advisory Council. That's where, if that is, where I have formed, where you have 3 parents per school, and I think the high school has 5. And then with these group of parents, we will meet quarterly, and they are advising the superintendent. So that group is I'm sharing some district initiatives or things that we're doing to get feedback from that group of parents.
Okay, and what's the
So it will not be the same. That's an advisory council. This would be a committee, subcommittee. The difference is that it'll be formal. They don't have to televise that. That is simply an advisory council to communicate with the superintendent. This is a committee to provide information to the board. So it's totally different. It's not the same.
But we don't have to, we just choose to because of.
I'm sorry, can you say it again?
You were saying it's not gonna be televised, but I think you mean on social media. I was saying this board doesn't have to, we just choose to.
We know that.
So, right, so you were saying hers, I was just asking, but when you
Right.
said don't have to, I was just letting you know, we don't have to.
Right, I am, and I think we all are very aware that we don't have to streamline it. However, we do, so if we do it for a regular monthly meeting, we do it for the work session meeting. Eventually, when this kicks off, I would not see a reason why we can't streamline it too.
Okay.
But it's gonna be, crawl, walk, run.
So, children in the system, one form or another, what does that mean?
Oh, what it is, that's a very good question. I was hoping somebody asked that. What it is, remember when we were first reviewing autonomous policies? We happened to run a policy to where it connects homeschoolers the ability to be able to come in to the public school system and take courses. So that's why I was mentioning that specific statement to include, if we ever kick it off, as far as with the new high school project, if we get specific cameras, we can actually have live stream virtual classes where you can have some homeschoolers being able to take classes. And so therefore, that's why I included that. Of course, we're not even in the crawl phase right now, so we're far from being able to do that. But I added that, for the possibility that we're gonna bring in those that are homeschooled to have access. Because I don't know if you know this or not, but if you're a homeschooler, you don't have access to extracurricular. And so, but see, that's why I'm saying we gotta think outside the box, because I don't know if you know this or not, but there's a charter school coming to Oak County. And I'm gonna tell you this could potentially devastate us. So we need to be proactive by thinking outside the box to attract those customers that we have lost and to attract those customers that we're yet to locate. So we just wanna be able to do this so we can bring in this homeschoolers, so that's why I added that on there.
Okay, so I have a couple more questions. Effective partnerships of home and school?
Same thing.
Huh, same thing?
For the homeschool.
Oh, okay, all right. So if the student have to be in the school system, some form or another, that's what you're saying? Okay. All right, so, never mind, I understand what you're saying. How many people will serve on this, how many people will serve, on this board? And then what is the term of the serving? And then what is the term of the serving of the chair and vice chair?
So obviously, with the policy we have, that the chair of the Board of Education happens to step into the board, to the meeting as we're having. Now, let's just say we already have a parent committee. Number one, if the chair Madam Chair decides to attend the meeting, she will automatically become the chair. But, to answer your question will be,
How is that? That would be.
That's what the,
That's
that's what the policy specifically indicates, that if we have a committee, that if the chair happens to go to the meeting, the chair will be the chair at that specific time. Just let me finish. So I think the first thing that we need to do is we need to go ahead and, moving forward, implement this, and therefore, I would say, as far as the terms, a year or 2 years, it's only, if you think about it, it's max of meetings is gonna be 3. I suspect maybe we're gonna end up having just 2 meetings per year. So I think a good term would be somewhere between a year or 2 years, for any one member that wants to volunteer. I am volunteering to be the first chair of this parent committee, as I'm the one that's taking the lead on this. And then anybody that wants to be the vice chair will come in, and then we'll just modify it as we move. As far as the amount of parents on the committee, I'm gonna shoot for the moon, and hopefully I'll get the sky. And so once we vote on this, my goal is to attempt to get 2 to 3 per school. And the whole logic behind that is that if I can get 2 to 3, I'm gonna have at least one parent attend from that specific school. If I only go along with one parent from one school, we're missing out. And so I think that we have 2 to 3 parents per school. It will almost guarantee that we will have hopefully at least one parent per school during the meeting.
Just, if I could, just a couple of things to ponder and think about as you establish this. So yes, you're right, it would be the open meetings law would apply. Emails and other communications that you referenced would all be public records. So that's important to keep in mind. There's not a requirement to stream the meeting, but it is an open meeting like this meeting, so people will have the right to attend. Whether you stream it or not, it's a separate issue. I don't see in the policy. Historically, if you establish a committee and you establish a chair, while the chair may choose to attend, while the board chair may choose to attend the committee meeting, the board chair would not just become the chair of the committee. Whoever is the chair of the committee would chair the committee meeting. That's just the way committees are historically handled. I'm assuming you are proposing this as an ad hoc committee that will be appointed by the chair and with the approval of the board. Is that right? You're operating under that process?
That's right.
Okay, all right. And then the only other thing I was gonna add in is, because it's the open meetings law applies, blah, blah, blah. You should try to establish a number of members that seems realistic, because the more members you add, it raises the number that need to attend for there to be a quorum for the group to meet. So, I wouldn't pick 3 people hoping 1 will come, because if you only get 1/3 of the people, then you won't actually have a quorum to meet. So anyway, that's just something to think about as you probably want to, whatever your process is, try to choose people who are committed to come to the meetings, etc. But anyway, those are the only comments I had. I do want to, if we're going to bring this forward for action, maybe you and I could work a little bit on some of the language here.
Absolutely.
To make sure that we're clear on exactly what you are intending in some of these areas. But I think it's okay.
Absolutely, and thank you for the input. Like I said, once we implement this parent committee, it'll be a process, and Once we vote on this to move forward, I would request that the Madam Chair nominate me for the position as I'm the one that's taking the interest on this. And so, and then I do agree with Mr. Malone that about the 1, 2, 3 individuals, and I think that once we have a strong grasp on it, and then I can speak with the people, the parents that really want to be involved, and I get a commitment. And the one thing that Rosa brought up, a good question, I have not really determined that the thing about it is it 1 year or 2 years, because the same rule is going to apply for those parents that volunteer. We will rotate, and so therefore if we go with 1 year, that means a parent will have to commit for 1 year as an example, and not just, fall off. And obviously, something I thought about was, spouses of military folks, that they have to leave unexpectedly. That's nothing what we can do about it, but we can readjust accordingly.
And I think we'll be able to work on some of the details of that between now and the next meeting, so that you can bring a proposal of membership that might work really well.
Thank you. Any more questions?
So Ruben, you said maybe 2 or 3 meetings a year, like you saying every 3 months or?
Yeah, accordingly.
Like that.
And like I said, once we get it going, if this is gonna be a crawl, a walk, let's be realistic, we've never done this.
Right.
So we're going into uncharted territory.
Right. Okay,
Any more questions? Thank you.
thank you, Ruben. Okay. At this time, Madam Vice Chair, we're going to be going into our closed session.
Madam Chair, the board enters into closed session under the North Carolina General Statute 143, 31811, to prevent the disclosure of confidential personnel matters, to consider matters relating to the initial employment of individual employees, and to consult with the board's attorney, to preserve the attorney-client privilege.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? At this time, we're in our closed session. We're gonna take a 5-minute break where everyone is